Okay folks, it's time to talk about Pauly Shore. After watching the recent clearly scripted and edited Stephen Baldwin interview on his podcast, I had to know the truth. So everyone knows that Pauly Shore is the son of the late Mitzi Shore, former owner of the Comedy Store, and how Pauly became an MTV and movie sensation in his youth. But Pauly seemed to go missing since the early 2000s, only sporadically popping up in strange foreign productions. Well, I did some digging and found the truth. You see, while Pauly had become a movie star after box office smashes like Encino Man and Son-in-Law, growing up in the wild world of comedy clubs in Hollywood had rendered poor Pauly Shore an addict. He had sadly become entirely dependent on sniffing the classic Mr. Sketch scented markers, and was apparently huffing up to 3 packs a day. And it wasn't just Pauly affected, as he seemingly intentionally got Andy Dick hooked on the same markers during the filming of his next movie, In the Army Now. But it was at the premiere of a Goofy movie where Pauly Shore went too far and forever altered his career. See, at this live event premiering the animated Disney full-length feature film, Pauly had sniffed almost triple the dosage of Mr. Sketch markers he would do any given day. And attempting not to pass out, he stumbled forward and knocked over a massive Goofy display statue that landed directly on Tevin Campbell, the young and up-and-coming singer and voice of the movie's very own Powerline. And while Tevin Campbell survived this horrible event, it shattered both his legs and rendered him bedridden for 2 years. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, Tevin had just signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Disney to essentially become the next Michael Jackson. If that wasn't bad enough, this all occurred right after Magellan had bought up most of the stock in Disney, and then strong-armed the company into handing over control. So Pauly was on the hook for a potential loss of future billions. And as you probably know by now, Magellan Incorporated is not a company you want to be in bad standing with. Well, before they made Pauly disappear, they intended to make some of the lost profit back, and threw Pauly into a series of movies that, if you look close enough, sent a subliminal message to the public about Pauly's guilt, imprisonment, and eventual death. Magellan didn't want the public questioning where Pauly was after they got rid of him, but making these films caused a twist of fate that ended up saving Pauly's life. Like I said at the beginning, if you watch Pauly's recent interview with the former Biodome co-star Stephen Baldwin, you'll see it's anything but casual and is in fact entirely scripted. They didn't want any online sleuthers to trace anything they said back to Magellan. Stephen and Pauly had become close friends. I'd always wondered how on earth Stephen Baldwin was ever cast in any role. He was simply bad. It couldn't just be the residual fame rubbing off from his brother Alec. Otherwise, Hollywood would be chock full of weird celebrity brothers. And that's when I spotted it. Listed in Magellan's recent unearthed tax records is Alexander Ray Baldwin II, Alec Baldwin's dad. It all made sense. This was the only way these stooges were getting cast in movies. A full-on family connect. And it's these same connections that Stephen Baldwin used to save Pauly's life. He was able to wrangle a deal with the higher-ups at Magellan that would let Pauly live and utilize his former training from In the Army Now. To save his own life, he would have to serve in covert military operations around the globe. And that's why between 2003 and 2021, Pauly was only featured in 5 films. He's in fact been sniping foreign adversaries for Magellan, and you can see the toll it's taken on his psyche. But finally, after finishing the Russian covert ops children's film Pinocchio in 2021, he's been released from his military duties. And though many have questioned him regarding this Russian-based Pinocchio film that seemed to implant military thoughts into the minds of children, Pauly has never admitted the truth. And if you think he's done working for Magellan, you're simply wrong, as he's now transitioned into being a scout to recruit new naive performers to sign with the evil company. And he uses his podcast to vet potential new victims, with 45% of his guests eventually signing with Magellan, thanks in part to the coercive tactics of William Montgomery's ex-wife, Nicole Tran. And there's plenty more strange things about this guy, like the fact that he was the original founder of the Welsh rock band Lost Prophets, whose original goal was to make a crappy imitation band to sell to MTV and help pay back his debt to Magellan. Well, we all know how this one-time lame band is now linked to crimes of the century, but we'll have to save that for another time. Until then, Pauly Shore, you're a total bitch. Okay everyone, if you're keeping up, things have taken a turn for the worse. After climbing for hours, we've reached a sheer cliff. While we were planning on making a human bridge, this gap is simply impossible. And that's when I looked at the back of my map and found this sick message.
Hey, total bitch, I told you to chill out, but you just wouldn't listen. Well, I guess now you'll be the coolest guy in town after all.
That's when I realized there was no way to get back down to safety before the sun went down. Tony Hinchcliffe had trapped us up here to freeze to death. TB Nation, if there was ever a time we needed you, it's now.